This is the face of a sick teenage boy who sexually assaulted a pensioner after barging into her home. Reese Wigglesworth, 16, was wearing a hoodie when he tried the door to his 79-year-old victim's home in Newcastle-under-Lyme, in Stoke-on-Trent. She assumed it was her son and so unlocked the chain, before the troubled teen forced his way in and asked if she had any money. The frightened OAP, who cannot be named for legal reasons, told him she didn't and could see him touching his own private parts. Wigglesworth then pushed her against a worktop and sexually assaulted her, reports Stoke-on-Trent Live. His victim screamed and he hit her across the heading, telling her to shut the F*** up before fleeing. Following an appeal, the teen was arrested 3 days later. Wigglesworth had previously received a caution as an 11-year-old for sexually assaulting a child. The incident with the pensioner happened 7 months after the teen and an accomplice robbed a disabled woman of her car at knife point. She was so distressed by the encounter she moved house. Wigglesworth has now been sentenced to 8.5 years detention by Stoke-on-Trent Crown Court. A successful application by local press meant reporting restrictions were lifted, with Judge Paul Glenn saying it was appropriate and in the interests of justice. Prosecutor Neil Ahuja said the first offense involved the defendant and another committing a carjacking at 12:50 a.m. on February 18. The 48-year-old victim pulled up outside her home in Clare Street, Basford, at 12:50 a.m. when the defendant and another approached her Vauxhall Corsa and demanded the keys. Mr. Ahuja said, the second man produced a knife, the defendant took 50 pence from her purse. She felt petrified by the knife. The demand to give her keys was very aggressive the second time and she did hand them over. She felt the knife catch her hand. One got in the driver's seat and one in the passenger seat. It was driven off. The car was spotted by police in Trentham. Both men were chased and detained. The knife was in the defendant's pocket. The victim has been left frightened and anxious by her ordeal. She is scared to go out at night. She is not eating or sleeping properly and has flashbacks. She has moved house because she did not feel safe. The defendant was released under investigation. He entered the pensioner's home in Newcastle at 7:30 p.m. on October 9. Mr. Ahuja said, he had tried to gain entry to the front door and went to the rear door. Mistakenly thinking it was her son, she opened the door. He pushed his way in. He had his hood pulled tight around his face. He asked, "Have you got money?" She replied, "No. Do I look like I have got any?" He pushed her against a kitchen worktop and grabbed her hard. He stopped because of a loud scream. He hit her over the head and shouted, "Shut the F*** up," before running away. In a victim statement, the pensioner said she has suffered flashbacks and no longer feels safe in her own home. She has had extra security fitted. She added she will never forget what happened and it will always stay with her. The defendant was identified by forensic evidence with his DNA found on the victim's clothes and the door handle at a neighboring property. Wigglesworth, of no fixed address, pleaded guilty to robbery, possession of a knife in public, burglary and sexual assault. Paul Cliff, mitigating, said the defendant wanted to offer his apologies to both victims. He said, any right-minded person would be disgusted by his behavior. Mr. Cliff said the defendant was aged 15 at the time of the robbery and his co-accused was 5 years older than him. He added Wigglesworth is not driven by deviant sexual fantasies and asked for the judge to give credit for the guilty pleas and to take into account the teenager's age and totality. Judge Glenn said the robbery victim described feeling petrified. He said, "You accept taking money, a small amount, from her purse." The police located the car, the two of you absconded and you were caught nearby. You were the one with the knife at that stage. It had a significant psychological effect. She was scared to go out at night and she had to move because she did not feel safe anymore. The judge described the sexual assault as an appalling case. He said, "You burgled the home of a 79-year-old. You had been released under investigation in relation to the robbery. I am not sure that you realized it was an old person's home or I would treat that as an aggravating feature. She thought it was her son and unlocked the door. You pushed your way in. Your face was concealed by the hooded top you were wearing. She was terrified and thought she was going to be raped. You meet the criteria for a dangerous offender. The sexual assault and the robbery are so serious only significant custodial sentences are appropriate. You are a danger when at large in the community. Your offending is escalating in terms of gravity and frequency. You carry knives. You abuse alcohol and drugs. The circumstances of the present offenses alone indicate you are out of control. Wigglesworth was placed on the sex offenders register indefinitely and was barred from a range of activities involving children and vulnerable adults.